Hello and welcome to the agenda right here on Zim TV. Today I'm joined by Dr. Musa Kika and we are talking about the state of human rights in Zimbabwe. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
it. Sorry for the delay, but we are here now. So without wasting much time, let's just get into the issues in Zimbabwe. Doctor, a lot has been happening this first quarter, and in your general comment, what can you say about the state of human rights in Zimbabwe?
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I really wish we were having a more pleasant conversation, but the topic of human rights, regrettably, is one where the news is the same. Whether we are discussing it in 2022 or 2021 or 5 years ago, unfortunately, there is very little progress, I'm afraid. We went into this past decade, with a lot of hope because of the 2013 constitution that many had fought so hard for, and we were hoping that that constitution was going to be implemented in spirit, and that the lived realities of individuals on the streets at the end of the day would be changed. Unfortunately, that's not the situation today. You only need to fall sick or to have a relative who falls sick and go to one of the hospitals to see the state of human rights. You only need to go to our schools to see the real state of human rights, public schools. You only need to say something that the powers that we don't like for you to really see the real state of human rights in Zimbabwe. And in the last 2 months or 1.5 months, we had an election, a by-election, which was really a mini general election in many ways. And we recorded, as we have done in past election episodes, a spike in terms of human rights violations, primarily civil and political rights here at the forum, and organizations that do similar work as ours. It's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant situation, I'm afraid. Impunity, we see it continuing to rise. We are also seeing a big trend around issues of constricting the space that human rights defenders and CSOs have to do their work.
Okay. Yeah, my next question and my follow-up was to say the by-elections came and went. We saw a lot of violence and unjustified political violence. Do you think the situation that we saw in March could be the same situation come 2023 when we go for the general elections?
We can only anticipate a different situation in 2023 if something drastically changes. The conditions that we have now, if they are not changed as we head towards 2023, likely we are going to see the situation remaining the same. Just the same as we can say, if the conditions now are similar to those we had in 2018 and 2013 and 2008 and the previous elections, how can you expect anything different? In terms of human rights records in Zimbabwe, the graph of violence and civil and political rights violations spike during election periods, just before elections, during elections, and immediately after elections. We saw the same with 2018 elections with August 1. We have seen it with these by-elections, and we are likely going to see it in 2023. The drivers are impunity, lack of accountability, failure to exercise constitutional and legislative mandate by the police, by the army, and by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission itself. So you have issues around institutional changes, institutional reforms, institutional restructuring that determine whether you have violence or not, right? And if you do not shift that, you are likely going to see the same. And it also goes around attitudes and practices of political party functionaries, supporters, those who campaign, the attitudes, the language, the hate speech that you see, the practices. That's exactly what drives the violence. And we haven't changed, and we are unlikely to change in the next months going into the election next year.
Okay. Maybe what solutions do you think might be needed to be implemented so that we don't keep on experiencing the same challenges, the same problems?
There is an attitudinal and practice overhaul that is needed, right? A lot of violence, if you look at the past by-elections, happened because certain political actors were not allowed to get to certain places or to say certain things or to do certain gatherings. Other political functionaries were being allowed, and I'm talking about the main opposition precisely, that was at the receiving end of being banned. They received maybe about 5-6 bans, right, in terms of holding political rallies, whereas other functionaries never received that. They had to resort to going to court. So what causes violence is those kind of things. You see a ban, people attempt to gather, the police will always visit with violence, as we have seen. That's our way of policing in this country. You also see the lack of tolerance, right, which is really political immaturity, where you see one candidate or supporters of a candidate campaigning in a particular area or sticking posters, and you see supporters of the other party going on to attack, right? We saw what happened in Kwekwe, right? A death, murder, which happened. There was a gathering which was happening, and then you have people who come to provoke, and cause violence. So unless those attitudes and practices are changed, we are unlikely going to see anything different next year. How do they change? They change through messaging that come from our political parties. I can tell you that a lot of what we do as citizens, a lot of what people do as political party supporters, they follow the lead from the top, right? If the leadership of a particular establishment sets up the terms of engagement, many are likely to toe the line. But when we see turning a blind eye, impunity, even subtle encouragement for that, then there's a problem, right? Setting that tone also means, particularly from the current ruling party, which is the head of state, setting that tone means that the police will do their job, right? It means the army will do their job and stay away from politics or from policing duties. It means the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will do its job. It means the courts will do their job.
Like you just mentioned just now, do you feel that heading into 2023 general elections, given that a political party needs to be approved by either the police or those in power to say you can go on and hold your rallies and stuff, do you think this might also affect, given the agitation that is there when people are mobilized and say we want to hear someone speak, and then you are later told that you cannot attend that because it has not been approved by the police?
Yeah, I dare say this. Most of the violence we have seen around political rallies in Zimbabwe have been caused by the police trying to stop a gathering, right? Gatherings that happen without the police coming to intervene usually happen peacefully, and the end people disperse and go. But once you bring in the police to disperse, you then see violence happening and assaults and all sorts of injuries. This is the reality based on the evidence that we have seen in the past.
Okay, you are live here on Newzim TV, and today we are talking about the state of human rights in Zimbabwe. With me here is Dr. Musa Kika. He's the director for Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. So we have seen efforts by government to try and implement a new bill, the PVO bill, Private Voluntary Organization bill. And there's been a lot of talk around the bill, with government coming in to say NGOs are being used to fund terrorists or terrorism within Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
That is, anyone who speaks against the government. In your opinion, do you think that this is justified, given that the role of the CSOs is to monitor and to keep those in power accountable to the public?
This is completely unjustified. We are not surprised that we have been given this law that in all likelihood is going to be passed. We hope it won't. This is not the same thing. It's the same time, the first time that it is happening. It has happened before with the 2004-2005 bill, and we are seeing it recurring again. For a very long time, there has been rhetoric coming from the government around CSOs being regime change agents, Western stooges. There is this divisive language around patriots and sellouts, villains and heroes. With those in human rights and CSOs being the villains, being the, those who lack patriotism, being the sellouts, being the Western stooges. Unfortunately and respectfully, that's not true. Civil society has three primary roles in any society, right? Number one, there's the role of self-governance. People are allowed to coalesce over issues of common interest. People are allowed to mobilize, right? After all, the Constitution is created by we the people, the government, the social contract, is entered into by we the people. So you cannot stop people from coalescing and engaging in self-governance. Number two, being partners in government, right? CSOs are partners of governments. It's very unfortunate that we are seen as enemies, but the reality is we are partners, right? It is impossible for any government in the world, no matter how rich, no matter how competent, no matter how talented, to deal with all the issues visiting our society. You need people as partners, and the vehicle through which people partner with government is civil society, right? Associations, trusts, PVOs, you name it, right? And the third function of CSOs is really to solve local problems, and that's extremely important. That's a bottom-up democracy. That's citizens being patriotic, taking responsibility. That's how you inculcate a responsible citizenship. So what's wrong with these three functions, right? None, unless you have nefarious agendas. You have nefarious things that you want to do where you don't want citizens to partake in that.
I was going to follow up on that and ask, what do you think are the motives behind this bill being channeled and being processed so that it can become a law?
The motive is very clear. You have to see this in context, right? And here is the context. Zimbabwe is in the process of authoritarian consolidation, right? Where power is being consolidated and held tightly in the hands of those who are ruling us today. And they will not want anything that looks like a stumbling block, anything that looks like it's interfering with that. We have seen decimation of the opposition. We have seen a political playing field which is not level. We are seeing what's happening in the courts, the worrisome trends in the courts. You can think of Amendment number 2 and 1 and 2 to the Constitution. We can see what's happening in Parliament, the recalls, etc., where really nothing meaningful is coming from that. What it means is civil society remains as the only organized grouping that provides any form of meaningful check to those in power, and that's a problem. To those in power, right, with nefarious agendas, particularly as we head towards 2023 election. In my view, all this is about power in the next elections, right? Civil society is there to document human rights violations, to hold to account, to call out what needs to be called out, and those are seen as stumbling blocks, right? It's also a battle of narrative, right? There is a narrative that is pushed by those in power to say, well, everything is okay, the economy is functioning, people are enjoying their rights. And those of us in civil society who are involved in dealing with victims and monitoring, we know that's not necessarily true. So when we then give a counter narrative, we become a stumbling block to the nefarious activities of those who want power at all costs. That's the real reason why civil society, why there are attempts to really close the space of civil society. We are seen as part of an opposition establishment of sorts, which is really unfortunate, because I have given you the three main functions of civil society. You can't link that to being opposition. It's unfortunate.
Okay, maybe to ask this question, they say one of the instruments that are within the PVO bill, it says that your operations need to be transparent. The government needs to know what you will be doing, your activities, your operations, where you are getting your funds, etc. Is there a problem given that the civil society organizations or the civil societies operate within the restricted law and are for the people? Do you see this as a hindrance to your operations?
My brother, do you really believe that NGOs in this country are operating outside the law, right? Do you really believe that as the forum we can receive money that the government cannot know about? Do you really believe that? Right? It can't be, right? We have institutions in this country that are responsible for overseeing movement of funding, right? We have institutions in this country that are responsible for compliance. The current PVO Act, in fact, already requires, certain levels of compliance, submission of reports, submission of audited statements, etc. What exactly is not there? If NGOs are doing anything criminal, the criminal code is there, right? There are a lot of offenses that are in various statutes that deal with anything that might be problematic. So why fix something that is not broken unless you are trying to pursue an agenda that you may not be putting on paper in black and white, right? In our view, This PVO bill is not about regulation. It's not about anti-money laundering or countering financing of terrorism. This is political. It's about simply stopping what is seen as a threat to the project of power consolidation. That's the reality. NGOs never say they don't want to comply, right? NGOs in Zimbabwe are already registered as PVOs. They are already registered as trusts. Some exist as common law universities. Can we really say there's an NGO in Zimbabwe that our government is not aware of, or is not aware of what they are doing? That can't be true.
Okay, I understand Zimbabwe is no longer blacklisted by the Financial Action Task Force, but President Emerson Mnangagwa's government continues to push the PVO bill to become a law. And I understand also that Zimbabwe has already frozen the registration of PVOs in anticipation of the law. How do you foresee the operations of CSOs and NGOs going forward? Say the law comes, say this bill is passed into a law.
Yes, sometime in March, I believe 4 March or so, the Financial Action Task Force removed Zimbabwe from the grey list, right? And they specifically made a comment in their communication when they were removing us from the grey list. They implored on the government of Zimbabwe to make sure that it follows the guidelines of the Financial Action Task Force in regulating CSOs. That was a very diplomatic and nice way of communicating to the government to say your PVO bill is not in line with our standards as FATF, and stop hiding behind us to close civic space, right? How do we see, that goes to show that the real agenda of this bill was never about compliance with the FATF. It was something else. But how do we see the space of civil society going forward? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. In the past, NGO leaders and functionaries have been arrested. In the past, civil society organizations have been banned. In the past, registration of NGOs has been revoked, right? We have seen these things in the past. We have seen disruption of programming. We are already seeing local government officials who, by the way, have nothing to do in terms of the law with NGO regulation, asking for MOUs, asking for certain payments to be made. Just last year in Harare, we fought a legal battle in the High Court in which the Harare Provincial Development Coordinator was trying to subject NGOs under his control. All that is illegal, but with the passage of this law, or the continuation of the current rhetoric or anti-NGO stance, we are going to see an increase in that. What it means is that access by NGOs of communities is going to be limited. But here's the funny thing. Development partners and NGOs in Zimbabwe provide the biggest chunk of social protection, more than the government is providing. So what does it mean to the person who relies solely on NGOs for their education, for their food, for their medication, right? There are more hospital beds, for example, that are provided by development partners and NGOs in Zimbabwe than they are provided by the government. That is the reality of it. So if you disrupt that, you can imagine what happens to the people. But here is the thing. You can never stop activism, and you can never cue activism. It mutates in one way or the other. You can close all the NGOs in Zimbabwe, but you cannot stop activism. You cannot stop people coalescing, right? Activism, by our nature as humans, we have to speak out. We have to self-organize. We have to hold each other to account. Independence is a product of activism. Democracy is a product of activism. You cannot tell anyone that you are going to stop it and kill it now. It's not possible, right? The rational thing is to allow space for legitimate, legal self-organization to happen. Like I said, that aids to our democracy, that aids to what our government is doing. So it's a self-defeating exercise that unfortunately our country is engaged in.
Okay. You are live here on New Zim TV, and today I'm joined by Dr. Musa Kika. We are talking about the human rights situation in Zimbabwe at the moment, and he has been saying a lot about the state of human rights in Zimbabwe regarding the PVO bill, which the government seeks to pass to become a law. As a forum, what are you doing in terms of fighting this bill such that it does not become a law?
We have done quite a few things since the bill was gazetted in November last year. What we did first was to, organize civil society, bring together members of civil society to say, let's sit down and study this bill and look at what exactly is it trying to do. As a result of that, we have mobilized everyone to understand what this bill is all about so that we are able to respond and engage effectively, right? That's part of our job as the forum, as a coalition, right? Part of our role is to coordinate what civil society is doing. Number two, we have produced knowledge products. We have produced analysis ourselves directly and through our various members as the forum. We have 22 members as the forum. We have produced knowledge products that we have submitted to various government departments, including Parliament itself. We submitted a petition to Parliament with our own analysis of the bill. We have produced specialized reports. One interesting report we produced sometime in March is called Punching Holes to a Fragile Economy, and it looks at the possible economic impact of the PVO amendment bill. Here is an interesting fact. According to the monetary policy statement that the RBZ had released sometime in February, NGOs and development partners are the third biggest contributor of foreign currency in Zimbabwe after foreign export receipts and diaspora remittances. So we did that analysis and we put out a political economy study out there as a knowledge product. That's number two. Number three, we have engaged. Right, we have met with the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, which is responsible for this bill. We had a meeting in Kadoma with the entire committee in which we were discussing what we think should be done. We have had one meeting with the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, who's pushing this bill to produce, to share our views regarding this bill, and we have delivered what we think to be alternative text, right? What can cure some of the most evil provisions that we see in this bill. We have done that submission. We have engaged, with the UN bodies, with the African Union bodies, perhaps of particular mention being some engagements we did in December with UN special rapporteurs, who in turn wrote communication to the President of Zimbabwe to try and show how this bill violates some of the regional and international standards that Zimbabwe is supposed to be abiding to. So we continue to engage various offices. We have met with the Financial Intelligence Unit, which is the body in charge of fighting money laundering and countering financing of terrorism in Zimbabwe. We had a meeting with them together with representatives of civil society. So we will continue to speak. We will continue to engage. We have also engaged the public to let them know what is being prepared and why it is bad. There were public hearings that were done sometime in March by the committee in Parliament. We participated in those hearings. We made our submissions to Parliament. And I'm happy to say some of the views that we have shared in those various engagements and meetings are being taken on board. They seem to be taken on board. We really hope that there will be extensive revision of this bill, which in the first place we think to be unnecessary. But we really hope that there's going to be extensive revision of the law that will eventually be passed.
Okay. As we head into the campaign season for the 2023 election, what are you doing as CSOs to make sure that those in power are accountable to the public?
As we have done in the past, we have spoken out against violence, against human rights abuses that occur simply because people are speaking out, right? We have sought to fight impunity, right, through the courts, through engagements, and in many other ways, right? We continue to spread the word of the message of peace and tolerance, right, in terms of our constitution. Our constitution is so liberal to allow everyone to engage, be it in political activity or social activity or economic activity. We continue to raise that. Now with what's happening to the economy, civil society, a number of civil society organizations have spoken and continue to speak around issues of economic governance. We can't ignore that, right? You can't say we are civil society and human rights organizations, so we are not speaking of economic governance. The reality is that in a place where economic governance is bad, human rights abuses are high. Why? Because you have more people speaking out, and you have, and the reaction is to silence and attack and arrest, right? You also have seeds of social unrest which are planted if there is no solid economic management. So we continue to speak about that, including commenting on some of the measures that we are seeing our government putting in place. And of course, we will continue to respond to cases of violations, fighting in the courts, fighting through engagement, and many other ways as we have done in the past. Traditionally, when we are going towards elections, we experience a high caseload, and we are preparing ourselves for that as we head into next year. We don't see that as any different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe as we draw close to the end of this session, the police have issued a ban on the use of spikes. What's your comment, given that the move is taken way after we have lost lives due to the use of spikes by the police?
Unfortunately, we have to wait for people to lose lives before we do reasonable things, right? It's just reasonable. It's common sense. Why throw spikes on a moving vehicle with people, right? As the forum, we have challenged that before. We went into the High Court. That was last year when we saw that a lot of these incidences were happening. We represented the Passengers Association of Zimbabwe in the High Court, and Justice Tagu here, the High Court in Harare, ruled that there's nothing wrong with throwing spikes, right? We appealed in the Supreme Court, and that ruling was reversed. The starting point has always been that it's illegal, right? There is no policing in the world meaningful policing that says you must throw spikes to stop a vehicle. If someone is committing a crime, you arrest them, right? In a peaceful, proper manner. You don't exert violence for you to arrest them, right? So it has always been illegal. So it's a welcome move that the police themselves are beginning to see that this is wrong and finally realizing the need to comply with the law. It's very unfortunate that this is coming at the backdrop of loss of lives. But as human rights organizations, we are pursuing legal challenges, including for damages for those families that have experienced losses because of this barbaric behavior.
Okay. Dr. Musa Kika, thank you so much for your time here on Newzim TV. We have learned a lot. I hope to be speaking soon again.
It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for making time. Thank you for the opportunity.
That was Dr. Musa Kika, Director for Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. He was here discussing the state of human rights in Zimbabwe. For more of these, follow us on our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Newzim TV, and also follow our stories on newzimbabwe.com, www.newzimbabwe.com. Thank you. Until next time, this is goodbye.